We're all getting smurfed. We're headed back to Saturday mornings and watching cartoons on this brand new episode of Totally 80s and 90s Recall. Hello and welcome. If you're new to this show, we are so excited that you found us. And for our returning listeners, it's great to have you back. Well, if you love all things 80s and 90s, from music and movies to television and pop culture, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, David, joined as always by my good friend, Rob.
Ahoy, matey.
Yeah, you've done that one before.
Have I?
Yeah, the ahoy.
See, they're all running together.
They are running together.
The other option was, I was going to do a movie quote. I'm an excellent driver.
I'm an excellent driver.
You know that movie?
I mean, there's lots of driving movies. Oh. That's pretty obscure, by the way.
Wow. That's a Rain Man.
Oh, yeah. Had you done the voice, I would have been I'm an excellent driver.
Yeah. I thought it was fitting.
Yeah.
Since we both have. I have a new driver in the house.
Yeah.
You're getting ready to have one.
Yeah. And I had a driver already. He had his license when we were in Japan.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forget about that guy.
Well, yeah, we forget about that guy.
We love him.
Just the other child we forget about. Yeah. So, well, on this podcast, Rob and I will travel back to the 2 decades that shaped not only our lives, but influenced the world for generations that followed. Each episode, we will develop and discuss lists of selected topics, or perhaps identify a significant event, movie, or whatever we recall from growing up in the 80s and 90s, providing some awesome memories, fun, and nostalgia along the way. With all that, Rob, what topic will we be covering for this episode?
Yeah, today we are grabbing our bowl of cereal. We're finding our spot in front of the TV, and we're going to look at our favorite cartoons from the 80s.
Favorite cartoons from the 80s. So cartoons are obviously a big part of my younger years in the 80s. Well, I would say it was a big part of probably everybody's younger years in the 80s for a lot of Gen X kids. There were basically a few times to get your favorite cartoons. One was before and right after school, because they did do some cartoons then. Yeah. But the second was like the Michael Jordan of cartoon times, the GOAT, and that was Saturday mornings. Mm-hmm. I remember getting up early and, like you just said, half a box of cereal. I used to take a half a box of cereal and I put it in a Tupperware bowl, and then I'd pour all the milk in, and I would park in front of the TV, and for the next 4 or 5 hours, I was watching, real good use of my time, by the way, watching cartoons. And my dad would always get mad because he would come out and go, why is a half a box of cereal gone? Mm-hmm. I just bought it yesterday. And I would be like, it's in my Tupperware bowl. So, and when I got older, I would actually put almost the entire box into a Tupperware bowl and eat that. So.
Did you have a go-to cereal?
I didn't. No. I was
fluctuated.
I was a Captain Crunch fan. Okay. I liked Honeycomb a bit.
Oh, Honeycomb's. God,
Honeycomb was
that's
good.
A good one.
But I would say if I had to pick, if you put me against a wall and said choose, Cocoa Pebbles was pretty good.
Oh.
Cocoa Pebbles or Cocoa Krispies, they're about the same, shape. Consistency might just be a little bit off, but
to this day, my wife will buy me Life cereal.
Life is good.
I love it.
But Cinnamon Life is superior.
Cinnamon Life was
if you're gonna get Life Cinnamon. What I don't like about Life as I've gotten older is if you don't eat it within 30 seconds, it turns into a mush.
Oh, it is mush.
And it's not much fun after that. So, but I do like Life cereal. I care for Cracklin' Oat Bran a great deal nowadays. That sounds like an old person cereal, but
you gotta get that fiber in there.
And then the Frosted Mini Wheats. Because I get a little sugar and, again, the fiber. Yep. So I love that our podcast has now gone to fiber. As 40-something-year-olds, it's very important. Got to lay off the sweets, right?
My kids still get Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I
do steal that too.
But
I'll eat that
do
too.
second guess it as I'm reaching for.
I never second guess any cereal. I like it. I'm kind of like Jerry Seinfeld in that. I just like cereal. We have 5 different kinds all the time.
We always have. My wife is a deal shopper, so she finds all the deals.
Ice-T's been pitching Honey Nut Cheerios a lot lately. So considering he used to be the cop killer rapper, and now he's saying we should eat that because it's good for our heart.
Wow.
I like Honey Nut Cheerios.
I mean, if Ice-T's promoted, I guess I should do it.
I think it's an odd thing that we go from the Ice-T we knew as youth to him saying we should be doing good things for our heart. But this is what happens. So.
Wow. Heart healthy iced tea.
Heart healthy iced tea.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would have never thought that back in the day, but here we are.
Wouldn't that be a funny conversation?
Yeah.
To like go back when he's like the height of cop killer
Yes.
and go, okay, I just want to let you know, here in another 30 years,
30 years.
you are going to be promoting heart health and by promoting Cheerios.
Honey Nut Cheerios. Yep.
And he's going to say
no.
He's going to say inappropriate things.
I'm no sellout.
Yeah.
So
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
You could also tell him he's going to be on Law and Order SVU for
Yes.
the next 30 years,
Yes.
and then he'll know that too.
He'll be like,
So
whatever.
He'll be like, no sellout. Yeah. You cash those checks real fast. Well, anyway, we derailed from our cereal
and
conversation from iced tea.
just to correct, this isn't just Saturday morning cartoon.
No, it's any 80s
Just
cartoon
80s okay.
that you wanted. It's just 80s were pretty synonymous with focusing on Saturday morning seemed to be like the prime time. Like they don't have that anymore. There is no Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, there's channels that just show cartoons all day long, but
Yes.
we legitimately waited for Saturday to sit down and watch cartoons. And like I knew what time my favorite ones came on. In fact, I remember at the end of summer, before school would start, they would actually do a 30-minute primetime episode telling you which cartoons were debuting that fall. And it would actually give you the time slots for your favorite cartoons if some were coming back, things like that. So it was a big deal. Like cartoons were the thing. And now they're not. So I feel bad that kids don't enjoy that or get to experience that enjoyment of like looking forward to that. You know what I mean? Because now they can just pull up Cartoon Network or whatever they want or YouTube and just watch anything.
Yeah.
So
No, that's...
like you said, you had to work for some of those things in the 80s.
Right. That's right.
Can't just get them off of the internet and do whatever you want at that time.
And you had to wait through the commercials. You couldn't stream through the commercials or fast forward.
Or you had to run to the bathroom and back. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Or that's when I went and got another bowl of cereal.
That's right.
So that'd be prime time to get more cereal.
Ate the other half.
Got to eat the other half, right? So, well, Cowabunga dudes, grab some pizza and the remote, and let's tune in for our favorite cartoons of the 1980s. Let's throw on a swimsuit and dive headfirst into a vault full of gold and concussion notwithstanding. Rob, flip on your number 10 cartoon.
My number 10, all right, is a cartoon called Cops.
Cops, Central Organization of Police Specialists. Fighting crime in a future time. Protecting Empire City from Big Boss and his gang of crooks.
Oh,
All caps.
all caps.
It's an acronym. Stands for Central Organization of Police Specialists.
Oh.
The tagline was "Fighting Crime in a Future Time."
Oh, I remember that tagline.
Yep.
But I didn't watch that Cops too much.
It lasted one season.
Oh, okay.
Tells the story of a futuristic group of super cops. They're protecting the Empire. It's called Empire City from Big Boss. He leads a gang known as the Crooks. Each member of the cops had a unique ability. So, for example, Bulletproof. Oh, they all had like code names. So Bulletproof, he was bullet resistant. Had a cyber robotic torso. He had long arm, checkpoint, apes, airwave, barricade. Then the Crooks group was led by Big Boss, and he had like kind of that classic gangster. Yeah, see,
Yeah, because people talk like that in the 80s.
right?
Yeah, sure.
Turbo Two-Tone was his getaway driver. Big Mama was his mom. Ms. Demeanor, Nightshade, Berserko, Dr. Bad Vibes.
So much about
Yes,
this.
he was a mad scientist, and he had this big glass dome on top of his head that showed his brain.
Did they make toys for this show?
Oh yeah, sure they did.
Okay.
And then Buttons McBoom Boom. That was he was a bad guy, but he had a
That's a good name.
set of machine guns that came out of his chest. But
That is a good
And then
name.
Bulletproof, he was the head guy. He was the lead guy.
Yeah.
The backstory on him is he's opening cartoon the pilot. He's chasing Big Boss. He runs into a wall. He's not going to walk.
No,
Unless
can't do that.
he gets a robotic body.
I gotcha.
So there was almost a RoboCop
Yeah.
kind of backstory to it.
Without as much excessive violence as the actual movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, again, and I remember that one playing.
Robots are big in the 80s.
Yeah. It had kind of a classic montage where they were reading off all the characters, and they had like a computer screen, and it was like the schematics of the person, and they would say, Bulletproof, AKA blah, blah, blah. And then it would do a little spinny thing of his figure, and it would tell what his statistics were and what his powers were. It was
Something.
a cool show.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Yeah. So yeah, Cops.
Well, that's a good start. And by the way, before we go, since this is a high probability of crossover, what's our over-under on this? 3? I'll say 3.
Yeah, 3. I'm gonna go with 3 because I think there's 3 that they aren't on your list, I'd be shocked.
I mean, there's 3 to 4 just mandatory
Classic,
cartoons. Well, my number 10 might not be a mandatory one, and it's not futuristic, but it was nevertheless completely awesome, and it was Mr. T.
Catch the action. Catch the mystery. On my show, the best show, Mr. T.
Came out in 1983. This concept of this show is fantastic. Mr. T coaches a gymnastics team, and they travel to compete in tournaments and then get involved in certain mysteries. So all that seems reasonable. At the beginning of each show, the actual Mr. T would explain the entire plot. So if you didn't want to watch the show, I guess he would just tell you exactly what would happen.
I've never seen him.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Was it a real Mr. T, like in real life, or was he?
At the beginning, the real Mr. T tells you what the episode's going to be, and then it was a cartoon Mr. T running around with the gymnastics team.
Got it.
And the best part about the show was he spent the entire show slipping in subliminal messages, which, by the way, in the 80s was a big deal, slipping in trying to teach kids good things.
There was a message.
But he put his messages in, and he'd have really good ones. Like he'd be talking, and then he'd just go, "Hey, kids, drink milk." And then he would say, like, stay in school, don't do drugs. And then he'd tell people to, like, eat an apple and stuff like that. So throughout the entire episode, he would just be like, hey, kids, drink milk. So, Mr. T, it was fantastic. I look forward to it on Saturday morning. He ran around with, I think there was a dog, too, that was, like, part of the gymnastics team. But, yeah, Mr. T, can't go wrong with that.
Wow. So, yeah, I saw it on a lot of lists, and I remember it being a cartoon, but I don't know if I ever caught it.
Wow, yeah, that was a good one.
Wow.
Yeah, drink milk. I'll never forget him telling me to drink milk.
Yeah, the moral message
always
is prominent in a lot of these shows.
All 80s cartoons. They had to put in. It's like we got to tell the kids to do good things because apparently in the 80s we were a bunch of hoodlums.
That's right.
So they were trying to get us on the right track.
We were hoodlums.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 9.
9.
Inspector Gadget.
Oh, yeah, Inspector.
It ran 83 to 86. I think I watched it on syndication.
Yeah, probably.
Because I don't know that I was watching it 83 to 86, but I was at the babysitter kind of that mid-80s on, and so I think I caught it in syndication. But he's a dim-witted cyborg police inspector. He's fighting Dr. Claw and his mad organization, MAD. His niece, Penny, and her dog Brain are kind of the ones behind the scene. He's kind of bumbling around, but they're really the ones on her little supercomputer and her book. And it was voiced by Don Adams, which is the Get Smart guy.
Yeah.
He had a kind of was made to be kind of a Peter Sellers, like Inspector Clouseau kind of thing. His catchphrase is "Go Go Gadget," insert thing. And so like he had Go-Go Gadget binoculars, he had an umbrella,
legs,
coat, copter, cuffs, hands, arms, neck. He had a phone that was in his thumb and his pinky.
Say what you want about that show. The Go-Go Gadget is a part of culture now. When people say stuff like that, they'll be like, oh yeah, Go-Go Gadget pen. You know what I mean? Something like that.
He had skates or blades. He had springs. Metro City was where he was protecting. He had a cool car.
He did have a cool car.
It was the Gadget Mobile, and it kind of turned from a van.
And the bad guy was just a hand looking at a TV with a cat.
Yep, and he had spikes on his wrist and stuff. Yeah. He had a message at the end of his shows.
He always did.
And so I just rewatched an episode, and it took place in a circus.
Nice.
And
was it be nice to clowns?
The safety message at the end was basically like, not doing those things because they're done by professionals, and make sure you're like wearing a helmet, and anyway. So I thought, Yeah,
Side-
Inspector Gadget. That was one that played heavily. Was on heavy
Oh, yeah.
rotation at the daycare at the babysitter. So
Side note: no kid in the '80s wore a helmet to do anything.
no.
I always tell my kids now because they had to wear helmets when they rode bikes. I always said, in my neighborhood, if you wore a helmet, you better be able to ride a bike really fast.
Yeah.
Because if we catch you,
Yeah.
it's going to be a problem.
Well, actually,
Why are you
a
wearing a
couple
helmet?
summers ago, we were camping, and the campground that we were at, you had to wear a helmet.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. I told the kids, just go ride your bike. And the kids said, Mom said we're supposed to wear a helmet. And I was like, just go. Well, then it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, and the park rangers, they're going to fine you. And so they were selling helmets at the thing. So my kids had to run around with it.
Great.
And I was like, what?
Well,
But anyway.
it's fine now. Now you have to wear the helmets.
Yeah.
So, well, yeah, Inspector Gadget. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my number 9 is an action cartoon. It was called Mask.
Crusaders working overtime, fighting crime, secret raiders who will neutralize.
Right. So this came out in 1985. Also, an acronym stands for Mobile Armored Strike Command. It was a French-American cartoon. I actually never knew that. The organization they fought against was Venom, so it sounds really bad. Sounds like a little bit of a G.I. Joe vibe on that
Yeah,
one, but that's
yeah.
okay. Bottom line is I had the toys. They were awesome. They were vehicles that changed into fighting machines, and the cartoon was basically good versus bad, and I got to see the toys that I played with in live action. And that good versus bad element seemed to be a big 80s theme, Cold War type stuff and things like
yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, Mask, I had the Chevy Blazer that the little gun turret would pop up on the back. So I always wanted the Camaro. Didn't get the Camaro. It had the flying doors on it so you could fly. I didn't get that one, but Mask. So I watched that cartoon.
I love it. I love it.
So-
Yeah, I clearly remember that one. That was one that the commercial, for some reason, I remember the commercial breaks on that one. Where it'd be, we're on a mission. We'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.
And then it would go to a cereal commercial or,
They're on a mission. They want you to sit at the edge of your seat and wait through those commercials. But those commercials, like you just said, were cereal, toys, sell everything to kids,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So there you go.
Love it. My number 8,
Number 8.
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Picking up the slack. There's no case too big, no case too small. When you need help, just call Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers. Chip and Dale with the danger.
Not action related.
Nope.
But it's in 1989. So we're getting towards the end here. The final episode aired in 1990. So it only ran for the year, but it ran from 90 to 93. It was on the Disney afternoon.
Yes.
And that's what I remember is coming home from school and you had Chip and Dale, you had Tailspin, you had DuckTales,
There it
you
is.
had Darkwing Duck, that whole lineup there. So yeah, that's a juggernaut of shows right there.
It's a lot of ducks.
But you have Chip and Dale. They're two chipmunks who started a detective agency with their friends Gadget, Hackwrench, and Monterey Jack, who's a rat.
Of course.
And then Zipper is a little fly that runs around. They deal with crimes, and it usually has something to do with a pet. Like there's human stuff going on, but they're usually trying to solve something within the pet world.
Yeah.
They find themselves going up against Fat Cat, who's the main guy. Interesting enough, the main theme was sung and recorded by the Jets.
Oh, nice.
Remember the Jets?
I do.
The group.
80s group. It's a good theme song.
It was along with Tailspin and the third series Double O Duck, which became Darkwing Duck. That rounded out the afternoon.
Nice.
Actually, Disney invested $20 million in DuckTales.
Oh.
Then invested $28 million in Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. So they were
It's a lot for only 1 year.
They were riding a lot on Chip and Dale.
Did you notice when you watched it or looking back on it now, one of them's dressed like Indiana Jones and
Yes.
the other's dressed like Magnum PI. Yeah,
Yes.
So
Yes.
they took two big time action stars in the Tom Selleck and the Harrison Ford and dressed them like
That's
that.
right.
So that's pretty good.
So it's my number 8.
Yeah.
That was another one that was
Nice.
my afternoon.
Nice.
After school.
Well, my number 8 is also animal themed. It is Thundercats.
Thundercats!
Debuted in 1985. The plot, it's an interesting plot. It's about powerful cat-like people on a planet called Third Earth. So do that with whatever you want.
Right.
I just remember the cool sword, and they yelled out. What did they yell out? Thundercats, Thundercats, Thundercats.
Ho.
And you got to throw the hoe in there. They had some weird little animal named Snarf for no apparent reason that ran around and made a bunch of noise. I think that was the name of it. But yeah, I think Snarf is right. They had pretty cool names like Lion-O, Chitara,
Tigra.
Panthro, Tigra, Panthro. He was the bald-headed one.
He was kind
of
cool
the
one.
tough guy. Apparently, names ending in O were popular for cat people. Everything, just throw an O on the end of it. And that's the way it goes. But yeah, Thundercats, this was an afternoon, after school cartoon. But I remember coming home and they had nice hair.
They did.
The Lion-O had
crazy hair. He
great
had
mane
a
of
great,
hair.
A great mane of hair.
He could have been in a hair metal band for sure.
I would have thought this would have been higher on your list.
Higher on my list. What was wrong at number 8?
I think this is already at number 8.
I think you've
got some great ones.
Oh yeah, I think making my top 10 is an award in itself. Wow, by the way,
okay.
So
number 8.
Yep,
Thundercats. Yes, there was it's been racking my brain, but there was a hip hop song, rap song, and they used Thundercats in the song, and I cannot place it. But anyway, all right. So that's my number. That was your number 8?
Number 8.
Okay, so my number 7, right?
Yes.
Oh, also one of the Disney Sunday afternoon or Disney afternoon lineup was DuckTales.
Oh, DuckTales.
Yeah.
Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history.
So it ran 87 to 90. And it ran on the Disney afternoon until 92. So there was a little crossover there. It follows Scrooge McDuck and his 3 grandkids, Huey, and Louie. They're in the town of Duckburg. And I didn't know this storyline, but apparently Donald Duck joins. I knew he's in the Navy, but he joins the Navy and leaves the kids with his uncle. So that's how I said. He's looking after his nephews.
I didn't even know that had a backstory.
I didn't either. Scrooge came to America when he was young, learning how to work smarter, not harder. And I have used that line with my kids in my classroom. There was a specific episode where he's flashing back, and I think he's working on the river, and he's challenging this other guy who's also got a riverboat. They each got a riverboat, and the one guy I think they have a race on the river anyway, and the one guy's just shoveling coal, shoveling. Well, Scrooge McDuck fashions this scoop thing out of a bicycle and his suspenders, and he's pedaling and it's just shoveling the coal in, and that was his catchphrase, was work smarter, not harder. And I've actually used that story with my kids in my classroom. But anyway,
that's good.
The episodes usually are dealing with villains trying to get to his fortune and his number 1 dime that is up in this big tower. They're racing for treasure, or they're focusing on one of the characters. But it led to Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, so it kind of hit that, and Tailspin. Some of the characters, Gyro Gearloose, Glittering Goldie. My favorite, though, was Fenton Crackshell, who was his accountant.
Nice.
But then he would secretly turn into a superhero named Gizmo Duck, and his secret word was blathering blatherskites.
No. I got to be
He would
honest.
say that, and he'd spin and turn into Gizmo Duck.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I know DuckTales.
Yeah.
I know it mostly for the theme song, which is a pretty good theme song. And I know, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, he dives into his
he swims around his
vault of gold.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think I really watched it. So the backstory you just gave me on that, I have more info about DuckTales than I ever thought I would have in my life. But because by the time that came out in 89, I think 88 or 89 when it came out. Yeah, I was like 7th, 8th grade. So I was doing a little less of the DuckTales, but that's okay.
Yeah. And I do recall watching this. I mean, if I was watching, I think I watched this probably too long. I was probably watching it when I...
That's fine.
Probably should.
As long as you're enjoying it, you can watch it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a cartoon.
Oh, the other character was Launchpad McQuack. He was his pilot, and then that turned into Tailspin.
Yeah,
so,
I do know that.
Anyway.
So, my number 7 is food-based. and it is The Gummy Bears. This ran from 1985 to 1991. I didn't watch it that long, but I remember the early years. The show consists of the Gummy Bears going on adventures and fighting off evil, because that's what you do. But what I remember the most about the Gummy Bears is their theme song.
Dashing and daring, courageous and caring.
Fantastic. When you hit the chorus, it really gets going. This song had no business going this hard at 8 o'clock in the morning, by the way.
Oh, I do remember that.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I remember it a lot for, is I actually would look forward to singing that song. And I still know that song to this day. But, yeah, that guy was so passionate about that song first thing in the morning. Just the way he holds that note of Gummy Bears. I mean, he goes in on that thing.
He did his job.
He did a great job
to do a job, and he did it.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park. So yeah, Gummy Bears.
Oh wow! Hey, I don't have that on my list, but when I was researching my shows, I found quite a bit of stuff about the quality of that cartoon. There was a lot of effort put into the Gummy Bears to give it a production quality that was better than what a lot of stuff was that were cartoons at the time, and so.
You need the production
no
quality.
Slouch.
No, you need the production quality because the show is about gummy bears bouncing around through the forest solving problems. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot to work with on this, by the way.
But they made it work.
They did make it work for 7 years or something like that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, my number 6 ran from 87 to 96, and that is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Of course.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Gotta have that.
Franchise began as a comic book. I had the Nintendo video game, the Nintendo cartridge. I remember that one. You've got backstory is kind of this excommunicated ninja. I don't know. Takes refuge in the sewer. Turtles get ooze spilled on them. They turn into these humanoid type turtles.
Yes.
He raises them. They name. He also gets the ooze spilled on him.
Yes.
And he turns into a rat.
Mm-hmm.
They name him Splinter. He raises them, teaches them, gives them names: Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael, after his favorite Italian Renaissance.
Yes.
Artist.
Splinters.
Yeah.
Yes. Because he's a rat with a lot of Italian Renaissance knowledge.
Oh,
yes.
I guess, yeah. He's fighting Shredder and his group Krang. Krang is this weird, tall guy, and he's got like a brain-looking thing, and it's kind of his torso. Bebop, Rocksteady, the Baxter Stockman, his foot soldiers. Yeah. All right. April O'Neil is the girl. Casey Jones, he's kind of this
vigilante.
Yeah. Wears a hockey mask, with a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know this. That there was a storyline where of the punk frogs. Did you know this?
I didn't know about the punk frogs. No.
It's the counterpart to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay.
Krang created them to kind of fight the turtles. But the frogs all speak with a Southern American accent.
Yeah.
It's Attila the Frog, Genghis Frog, Napoleon Bonafrog, Rasputin the Mad Frog. And they're named all after, villains in history or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. So that that has kicked off a whole. I mean, they're still around now. We've got movies and then one of my favorite things I put down here was in Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Secret of the Ooze
was Vanilla Ice's Ninja Rap.
Ninja Rap. That's great.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Can't go
that's
wrong.
my number 6 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. If you can link Vanilla Ice to any of that, then that makes it a quality choice.
Right.
Probably should have gone to number 1 at that point.
Yeah.
So.
And the movies did really well in the box office.
Yeah. My favorite thing in the first,
I was like, what?
when you were talking about in the first movie, if you want to watch something that you thought was cool when you were a kid and go watch it now, when Splinter's training them to do Well, actually, he's training. Originally, he is in a cage and he watches his master do kung fu, and he practices it as this little animatronic rat, and then he goes and teaches the turtles later. It's the funniest thing you'll ever watch. It makes no sense. So, and the animatronic on that was not good.
No.
You'd think in 1989 or 1990 when that came out, they would have been able to do it, but it wasn't good. So,
Oh, here's a little connection to the 80s. So the voices, two of the voices for the Turtles, one was Corey Feldman,
yep.
and one was Robbie Rist. And he was, if you remember back to American Eagle, or
Iron Eagle.
Iron Eagle, sorry.
Yes.
Iron Eagle. He was the little nerdy guy that does the computer.
Perfect.
And helps him get overseas. But yeah, so there's a little 80s
80s link.
Connection. Yeah. Anyway,
That's great.
So that was
connection.
my number 6.
Nice. Well, my number 6 doesn't have to do with turtles. It is called Voltron.
From days of long ago, from uncharted regions of the universe, comes a legend. The legend of Voltron, defender of the universe.
This started in 1984, and this was really one of my favorite cartoons I remember at that age. 5 superhero types. You got 5 lion vehicles. They're all different colors. They can fly and fight evil separately, but when it gets too much, and they really got to fight a big sort of animal, robot, whatever it is, they come together and they form Voltron. It's a huge robot with this gigantic sword. I thought it was awesome. I used to wait. I mean, it was going to happen every episode, and I loved waiting for when they formed together. I had the toys. I had all 5 of the lions, so I could make the Voltron myself at home. And it was a anime. Basically, it was a Japanese cartoon.
I was going to say it was an anime.
Yeah, and so it's funny, obviously when they translated, the dubbing's a little off at times, but this is a must-watch. Like, I would come home after school, Voltron would be on. This is what I would watch. I would get the toys, and I would sit with the toys while I watched the cartoon. So,
Yeah, I didn't. This was on my cutting room. I don't remember watching this.
Oh, wow.
I know of
You missed
it.
out.
I know of it, and I remember the different. There was a green one and a red one and a yellow one and
Pink one.
There's a black one.
There was.
Kind of a precursor to
Mighty Morphin. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
You could say they copied him.
Yeah.
Voltron's where it was at.
Yeah,
And that big head would come out.
that's right. He had
Huge sword. Yeah.
like horns or
It's fantastic.
Anyway,
Great cartoon.
no, that's a good one. My number 5 is Masters of the Universe.
Oh.
And said, by the power of Grayskull,
I used to refer to it as just He-Man, but
Yes.
the I think the official title
It's
is
He-Man.
Masters of the Universe.
Nobody
So,
calls it Masters.
I thought it was interesting that the action figure, the action figure came out before the cartoon.
Yes. So
Quite a bit. Like the action figure
Yeah.
came out in 81 and the cartoon came out in 83. So this
Well, they got the action figure out, and I watched the documentary on this on
Yeah.
Netflix, the toys that made us, or
Yeah.
whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they made the toys, and then the toys were so popular, they basically came back and said, hey, we want a cartoon for this.
Yeah.
And they had to literally make up, they didn't have storylines. They didn't have anything because they were just toys.
Yeah.
So there was no backstory. There was no comic book. There was nothing to base it off of. So they just made up everything for the cartoon.
Yeah.
And you got what you got.
Yeah.
So
So I put it was inspired by Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah.
which I didn't realize that. I mean, now you look at it and you go, oh yeah, duh. Created by Mattel. Mattel had a huge market or corner of the market at this time.
Yep.
But it's you got Skeletor on the planet of Eternia. He's fighting him. It's part medieval sword kind of thing, part sci-fi. Got some tech
part
stuff
a lot of
going on.
things
Yeah.
going on.
You got Skeletor trying to prevent him from conquering Eternia and discovering the secrets of Castle Grayskull.
Grayskull, yeah.
But then you had where was Skeletor? He was up on what mountain?
He was on the purple.
Yeah, I can't think about it. Anyway, he had his pet tiger Cringer.
Yes.
That was kind of this cowardly thing, and then it would turn into Battle Cat.
Battle Cat.
Yeah, had action figures and lunch boxes, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was everywhere.
I had Castle Grayskull.
Yeah. You had
The
Castle
actual
Grayskull?
toy, yes.
Oh my
I had.
gosh! Wow.
I had several He-Man characters.
Characters like Man at Arms, his daughter Tila.
There was a
Orko
skunk.
was this weird thing that floated around.
So
and-
that was made up for the cartoon. That wasn't even a character they had made a toy for,
Oh.
but they wanted some like slapstick humor, so they threw that in. He made no sense.
Ram Man. I forgot about Ram Man.
Yeah.
And then you had Many Faces.
There was a skunk character.
Snake Mountain.
Yeah, Snake
Skeletor.
Mountain.
Yeah, he's Snake Mountain.
There was a skunk character again with the skunks. I don't know what's going on with skunks in the 80s.
Beast Man, Merman, Evelyn.
Lots of
remember?
man.
Yeah, Trapjaw and Triclops. But anyway, so
Yeah.
that was one heavy rotation.
Heavy rotation.
He was everywhere.
Everywhere.
Man was everywhere.
Yep. So
That's my number 5.
that is a solid choice and a classic. Everybody probably, at least from a boy standpoint in the 1980s, probably caught some He-Man along the way.
Well, they did an offshoot, She-Ra.
She-Ra, yeah. My wife says her and her sister remember She-Ra. So, well, my number 5 is not as big and strong as He-Man, but I'm going to go with some childlike figures, and that's Alvin and the Chipmunks. This is really famous now with movies, obviously, but I used to just watch the cartoon when I was a kid. You had the Alvin, Simon, and Theodore, and their dad. Is it their dad, Dave? I've never understood how Dave. I think one of the movies just talked about he kind of inherited him or whatever, but he's kind of like their dad. But
I don't know what the backstory is there.
yeah, they didn't really get too far into it. So they live with Dave, and of course he does the famous Simon, Alvin, and then he has to scream Alvin because he never pays attention. So.
Okay.
But of course, Alvin Chipmunk's pretty old. They had the Christmas song from back in the 60s or something. So I mean, they've been around for a while. But I remember the cartoon in the 80s, and what I remember about it is they would sing 80s music. So they'd do popular music from the radio, but it'd be the Chipmunks singing it. So it was on after school, and I think it crept into a couple Saturday mornings, but I think more after school. But I really liked them singing the popular songs in the chipmunk voices. I always thought that was funny. So, but yeah, Alvin and Chipmunks, they get into hijinks, sing songs, and Dave bails them out. So,
And there was a whole they had girlfriends.
yeah.
There was like a girl set of
The Chipettes.
Chipettes.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So you had the Chipettes, and they basically just made 3 of the same female versions.
Yeah.
So that they all matched together. One had glasses, one was a little silly, and one was, the leader of the group. Yeah, the Chipettes.
That's another cartoon. I think several will mention. I think will come up. Are still holding strong. Like they
make movies now.
they're still making movies now, right?
Yeah.
So they've still got a place kind of in pop culture.
Pop culture. Yeah, they've been around a long time.
Yeah. All right. My number 4 is one that you've already mentioned, and that is Mask.
Ooh, yes. You said
85 to 86. I don't really have anything else to add. IGN, which is a online entertainment deal, they voted Mask the 99th best animated series in 2009.
Out of how many?
I'm going to assume 100.
100?
I don't know.
Yeah, you just crept right in there.
Yeah. That you talked about the toy. I did this is one of the rare ones on this list. I actually had the toy. I had Rhino.
Oh, yeah.
He was the semi truck.
Gotcha.
And he was driven by Matt Tracker, who was the head of Mask. But Rhino was a Kenworth tractor rig.
Oh.
And I remember the front end had a battering ram. You push a button and the whole front grill would pop out like a battering ram. Had the smokestacks folded down and became smoke screen cannons. Had an ejector seat.
Yeah.
Had a rocket launcher. The whole back end of the truck came off and was a separate little car, like an ATV. And then it had a radar dish that came out and turned around. So yeah, this is one that. There's T-Bot. Do you remember T-Bot? He was the little robot, and the Matt Tracker's son rode around on him. He'd go. He was another little side character. Matt Tracker's son was always getting in trouble, but great soundtrack or great song.
Great song.
Probably one of the best theme song.
Better than Gummy Bears? It's not
It
better.
is
than
better
Gummy
than Gummy
Bears.
Bears.
No
If
way.
I can,
I cannot believe anything's better than Gummy Bears.
But yeah,
I love Gummy Bears.
that was my number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh, and there was you were talking about the vehicles, Jeeps. There was a Jeep. Do you remember the Jeep? It opened up.
Yeah, yeah.
And it shot a boat out on the.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was a good one. I love Mask.
Yeah.
So, well, my number 4 is not as cool as yours because you had the cool vehicles and action. Mine, obviously, this was from when I was younger, is Jim Henson's Muppet Babies. Muppet Babies. Why are you laughing? So this is another cartoon from the 80s with a theme song that goes way too hard. And so it's one of my favorites. It's a little much for first thing in the morning, but I love it. You get up, you dance, you have a good time, right? So the Muppet Babies actually first appeared in Muppets Take Manhattan, fantastic movie from the 80s, should watch it. And were so popular, Jim Henson made the cartoon. I'm not sure where all the Muppet Babies came from.
I was going to say, how did the Muppet Babies? What was? Well, I don't.
I don't understand either.
Yeah.
I put in here, are they orphans? Because if not, they're all related. And since Piggy and Kermit are romantic later in life, it seems weird. But I guess no more odd than a pig being in love with a frog in the end of the day. But yeah, they all live in a nursery, and the nanny comes in, and they're like, "Yes, nanny," or whatever. And you never see. It's like Charlie Brown, where you never see the actual parent person. You just see the Muppet Babies, and then they have adventures. Like they pretend to do different things, like Indiana Jones and stuff like that. But yeah, Muppet Babies.
Wow. Yeah,
And if you haven't seen Muppets Take Manhattan, which you shook your head like you had, and you should watch
I haven't.
it. Yeah, Kermit loses his loses his memory, and he becomes a businessman. Then they got to put on a Broadway show. It's just a whole thing. It's great.
Yeah, that sounds normal.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's a good one.
A legit storyline.
It is a legit storyline. Muppets Take Manhattan. That's for another day. So, did you have the Muppet Babies?
I did not have that on my
what?
list.
Goodness gracious.
Nope, I didn't.
right.
But my number 3, though, is something you did have,
Oh, okay.
which is Thundercats.
Oh, so you're putting them up higher.
Yeah. I thought, as far as like the quality of cartoons in the 80s, I felt like there were a few that rose to the top just as far as like storyline and interest and action, and Thundercats for me was up there. Yeah, and a lot of same things you said. Animated, it was an anime as well. The only things that I'm going to add, I put a note next to Chitara.
Chitara.
She's good looking.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie.
from a cartoon standpoint,
I'm not gonna lie.
just in general.
Yeah,
Okay.
just in general.
Okay.
She's- yeah, the saying Thundercats. So cool symbol. You still see people walking around now with the Thundercats logo. I put great head of hair. I thought it was funny that you said that.
He did have a great head of hair.
Yeah.
He could have been in any hair metal band
Yeah.
in the 80s.
The sword, I just put it gave them sight beyond sight.
Sight
That was
beyond
the and then I'm shocked of all the 80s reboots that this one hasn't had more.
No Thundercats.
We've had G.I. Joe, we've had Transformers, we've had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we've had He-Man, we've had a lot of things. But
Are you wanting a live action?
Thundercats? I'm surprised that they haven't. I think it could work.
Well, they may have some PTSD. They did a live action He-Man once, and I can tell you how that turned out with Dolph
and I
Lundgren.
liked that one.
Oh my goodness, no
I
one likes that
liked
one.
it.
That's awful.
I thought it was good.
No,
But-
it's really bad.
For what was it, like 87 or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Thundercats is my number 3.
Okay. Well, my number 3, you know what? I'm going to play you the theme song, and I'm going to see if you can figure out what my number 3 is.
It's a Smurfs.
Oh, it is the Smurfs.
Yeah.
Who wasn't dancing around their living room doing this first thing on a Saturday morning, huh? The la 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 la.
Gargamel.
Gargamel, right? Yeah. Well, you cannot have a list without this. This is a staple 80s cartoon that made no sense. That's fine. there were 100 plus male Smurfs and one Smurfette. I don't know what's going on there. By the way, are they just
I never.
are they
thought
just
of that.
popping up? I don't
guess.
know where they come from. Like, how do you birth new ones when other ones die off? There's just one Smurfette. So if Papa Smurf's everyone's Papa, it seems like Smurfette's had a hard life, is what it seems like. And so I'm not sure what's going on there. And on top of that, they're always flirting with Smurfette. So it's a weird conundrum there in the village, I would say. But we didn't think about that in the 80s. She was there, and then there was the rest of them. You had the sneezies, or you had they had some stereotyped whatever. We just wanted to ensure Gargamel and Azrael didn't eat them. Because that seemed to be the whole plot of the movie, was we want to get them to eat them, because they would always try to eat them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else was going on there, but they always tried to find the village so he could get them, so he could eat them. And the Smurfs would always get themselves into his castle, and I'm like, if you just stay away from him, I feel like you'd be fine. But it seems like they caused themselves more trouble. But they've rebooted that. You said it. They've made movies. They've done all kinds of stuff.
Smurfs,
but I don't think you can have an 80s countdown of cartoons and not have Smurfs. That was a must watch on Saturday morning. I would wait for that to come on. So,
in my notes, I was making connections between. There were quite a few cartoons in the 80s that had kind of a copycat, or a kind of a knockoff version, and I put Smurfs, and then there was the Snorks.
Oh yeah, Snorks,
which is kind of a Smurf knockoff.
Underwater Smurfs.
That's right.
Yeah, if it's famous one way and popular, make another one.
Yeah.
Right. So,
all right. That was your number 3.
Well, I'm going to assume Snorks isn't your number 1 now, since you just mentioned it right there. Right.
No,
so,
Snorks is not my. No. It didn't make my list.
The
I promise.
Snorks. All right.
My number 2. Is that right?
It is number 2. Yeah, that's where we are.
G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe.
A real American hero.
Gotcha. Hey, my number 2 is G.I. Joe. A real American hero.
Look at that.
In fact, I don't think you can do it right if you don't play the theme song, because that really gets it going.
He'll fight for freedom wherever
Oh my
there's
gosh.
trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe.
This is,
G.I. Joe is there.
I can remember this song all the time.
Yeah.
It's not good. The guy singing it's a little
I
interesting.
don't remember it being this bad.
No, because when you're a kid, you
Did it
thought
just
him
mention his hair?
Because when you're a kid, you're just yelling at him, "Yo, Joe!" So you figure, hey, and then G.I. Joe's there. So
This was another one that was launched simultaneously as a toy line.
Yes.
Like a lot of these, I'm realizing were kind of
the actual G.I. Joe. The actual G.I. Joe toy came out in the 70s. It was the real big one.
My dad remembers
and then,
that.
but they just had like the one G.I. Joe character. And then this branched out where you made the mini characters, and then you had lots of them.
Yeah. The toy line, the new kind of toy line that we know, came out in 82, and then the cartoon came out 85 as a full cartoon series.
Yeah.
I remember the public safety lesson at the end.
Always.
And that
Love
was
those.
where the "now we know and knowing is half the battle." And that is another cultural catchphrase that we still say now. Well, and knowing is half the battle.
Yeah.
I think it's another thing I've probably told my kids. Well, now that you know and knowing is half the battle.
Some of those PSAs were a little interesting, by the way. They were talking about electricity. They were talking about all these things.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a little creepy. You're they'd have 2 or 3 kids, and then randomly this monstrous G.I. Joe character would pop up out of a tree and be like, "Hey, kids,
you should not smoke cigarettes."
That's right.
Where'd you
If you're going to ride a bike, wear a helmet." Like,
Dude,
okay.
how long have you been there?
Thanks, Destro.
Yeah. So some characters that I put down: Duke, Shipwreck. I had Shipwreck. I remember him.
Yeah.
Scrap Iron.
I had so many of these.
Destro is a bad guy. Cobra Commander. Roadblock. Bazooka.
There's only one G.I. Joe character. My favorite character, Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes, yeah.
That
and
is
Storm
the
Shadow. Both
character.
of them. Yeah,
Storm Shadow's okay, but Snake Eyes is the character. That's the one.
And actually, he was the one, like, if you were playing with your buddies and they had Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow. It's kind of like with Transformers. There's a couple Transformers that if somebody had them, they were the cool kid, right?
I had Snake Eyes.
In my notes, I put down there's that whole Sergeant Slaughter storyline that just kind of took off. I didn't ever quite.
He became a wrestler. You had all kinds of stuff.
And then
for that.
didn't the Refrigerator Perry? He had I think he had a storyline too within the GI Joe.
maybe.
Yeah,
Multiverse.
yeah. And then this has kicked off, a whole line of movies here in the 2000s. You had G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra in 2009 and Retaliation in 2013, and then Snake Eyes had his own in 2021. So it's still going now.
Still going strong. Yeah. Everything you said, I was going to say a lot of the same things. I will say there was this huge aircraft carrier toy.
Yeah.
And I never had that. And I'd see it at Toys R Us. And it costs a lot of money. And no one ever, I didn't even know a kid who had that thing.
No.
But they sold it. And it took up like half your bedroom. But I never saw it in real life. I only saw it on TV and I only saw it at the store. So
I remember that being in the Sears Robot toy catalog would come out.
You couldn't get that.
And that would be in there. And I mean, every year you circled it.
I asked for it multiple times.
You'd circle it and give it to mom and dad. And they're like,
I would ask for that. And what I would get was like 4 of the $5 action figures. Well, this will be the same.
Yes.
Or they'd get me, I got the fighter plane. That was the big one I got one year. And I could put a G.I. Joe in the cockpit.
And as we're sitting here, this is coming out. I'm pulling this out of nowhere. There was a knockoff line of G.I. Joe, and I cannot remember what it was called, but I remember getting those instead of
I didn't get those.
G.I. Joe.
I did get.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you I had a plethora of He-Man, and I had a plethora of G.I. Joe, and I had a whole box of Hot Wheels. So those were my big toys right there. Those are the things that I had the most of. And then I had a few of the Mask and some other ones. But, yeah, G.I. Joe, I remember really wanting all the toys. I remember I would get them, and I'd be like, I'd have them. And they would fight. What you would do in your bedroom, make them. I'd have they'd have a fort on the bed, and then the other ones are on the floor, and you had a whole thing, right? So a lot of imagination went into that. Again,
Toys R Us
today's
had
kids
their own aisle.
Oh,
I mean, there was just an aisle
just
that
goes
was
on
just
forever.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah. So when we would go shopping with my parents, because they would take us shopping all the time. And they would go to the worst places. And it's just, I don't want to be here. Like, this is awful, right? It's the worst places to shop. Sears, whatever. Point is I'm not having a good time.
Yeah.
But they would tell me, if I behaved, whatever, would stop at Toys R Us on the way home. And they give me 10 minutes just to run the aisles. And they didn't buy me anything. But they let me just run the aisles and see all the stuff that I wish that I had. So, but yeah. So in my early years, it was the G.I. Joe He-Man aisles.
Yeah.
And then when I got older, it was the Nintendo aisle, looking at the newest video games.
Yeah.
But yeah. So G.I. Joe, also my number 2. So
I think we're like
that is
3.
we're at the 3.
Yeah.
Our over-under was 3. We're sitting at 3. So, before we reveal our number 1s, let's head to the cut line. As we put our list together, we often find it very difficult to rank just 10 in each category. So for this segment, we will each identify 2 cartoons that just fell out of our top 10. We will also identify an honorable mention, which is a cartoon we missed the first time around, but found sometime later and really liked. So Rob, with all that, give us your first cut.
All right, my first cut may not play by the rules, but it's Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help.
Scooby-Doo.
It was actually originally broadcast from 69 to 76.
Yeah, but they ran it in the 80s all the time.
But they ran it clear into...
And didn't they have Scooby-Doo with his Scrappy-Doo or something too?
Yeah, Scrappy-Doo ran into the 90s, but the original Scooby-Doo ran... ABC aired various versions of Scooby-Doo until canceling it in 85, but it ran in syndication forever. And then it got a reboot in the 2000s. And but you have Shaggy and Fred and Daphne and the whole crew. But did you know Shaggy's real name was Norville Rogers?
Yeah.
That's his full name.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but he was voiced by
Nobody
Casey
knows
Kasem.
that. Yeah.
You knew that.
Casey Kasem.
And then Fred Jones was voiced by Fred Welker, which if we have time, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But and then we've had a couple reboots. It's TV in 2002. TV Guide featured it in its list of the 50 greatest cartoon characters of all times, which was Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo is...
So I put catchphrase. Let's see who the whole idea of who let's see who this really is. And then they pull the mask off and it's old man Smithers from, the summer camp.
Let me tell you my theory on Scooby-Doo. So Scooby-Doo is about... good for Fred, but it's a bag of nonsense. So here's the deal. Fred, he wants to hang out with Daphne in the worst kinds of ways.
Yeah.
All right. And she's got this friend Velma who she's always got to bring along. So Fred's kind of trying to work this double angle is what he's trying to do. But unfortunately, Shaggy keeps hanging around with this stupid dog. So he says, look, let's jump in my van. He spikes a couple brownies or cookies, gives them to Shaggy, and Scooby gets them all stoned up, and then like goes, hey, let's solve a mystery.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice Fred doesn't go anywhere Shaggy and the dog are going? He's with the girls.
Yeah.
Right? So him
That's
and the
true.
mystery machine are together, and then Scooby and Shaggy wander off somewhere.
Yeah.
And this was all a ploy for Fred to just try to get with the ladies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he couldn't get rid of Shaggy, so he'd just get him high and tell him, let's solve a mystery. And then he'd have some old timer stand in, hey, dude, wear this mask, so that I can. This is all an elaborate plot by Fred to score with Daphne. It's all it ever is. So
Well, and I thought it was interesting that I don't think there was ever it was ever a secret that Shaggy was obviously a stoner.
Oh, no.
Like
I
they
mean,
never hid
they didn't
that.
even
I
try.
mean, they never
Look,
overtly said it.
They
but
couldn't say marijuana. They couldn't say we're smoking weed.
But
So they're like, oh, let's have Scooby snacks.
Yeah.
We already know what's going on here. Like, I was 10 years old, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I know what's
but
going
I don't
on
think
here.
you're supposed to
right?
eat
So,
those. Yeah.
Yeah. He was eating those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
that-
sure.
So that's my first cut was
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo. That was the heavy rotate. It was constant. That was a cartoon I just remembered
Definitely.
watching all the time.
All the time. Well, my first cut, you already mentioned.
Oh.
So I'm going to go in with the lead song on this because it has a good theme song after all.
Pardon, and this is good.
We're back to the Inspector Gadgets. There's some good synthesizer back there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of what you said about this is, again, I watched it in syndication too. It was on reruns, but it was after school. It was an after school cartoon. I just thought it was funny at times, and it was slapsticky, and that's kind of what it was. In that age, that made sense. I probably didn't get all the things that were happening all the time, but he had the cool gadgets, and
Preparing for
Gadget.
the show, I watched a couple episodes. Well, I watched quite a few episodes on one day. I just let it play in the background, and I was impressed with there was some good comedy.
Oh yeah,
It's kind of like that, airplane type, where there's like a little one-liner type, police squad type comedy, and it was actually pretty funny.
The guy who voiced Inspector Gadget, that was his stick, his shtick, his style, and so they morphed it in, interweaved it into the show because it would have made sense.
Yeah,
So,
and I thought I was like, this show's actually kind of funny.
yeah,
So,
it's not too bad.
no, it's good. My cut number 2. This should have probably been an honorable mention, but I had to get it in. It was a cartoon called Brave Star.
No idea. Got me on that one.
Yeah. So this was 87 to 88. It only ran for a year, but it was done by the same people that did He-Man, so Filmation.
Oh, okay.
Also, the cartoon came out after the toy line, but it follows a Marshall Bravestar. His real name is John Bravestar. He's Native American. He's got the eyes of a hawk, ears of a wolf, strength of a bear, speed of a puma.
Do you think this cartoon, if watched right now, is culturally sensitive?
I don't think so. But it takes place. It's kind of they called it like a space western, but he's on a planet, this desert planet called New Texas. It takes place in the 23rd century, 2349.
Yeah.
Also has a moral lesson at the end. Very reminiscent of He-Man because he's got a partner whose name is 3030, and he's this like horse humanid type thing, who's got a big shotgun, and he named it Sarah Jane.
Oh.
But his adversary is Tex Hex, and he's the leader of the Carrion Bunch.
So just to be clear, Braveheart, is that what it was?
Oh, no,
Brave Star.
Brave Star. With 2
who's
R's.
A Native American type. His counterpart is Tex Hex.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we went far on that one, didn't we?
And then there were like prairie people that were like put into like kind of almost like slave labor to mine this stuff called curium, which is a fuel that would fuel a spaceship for like a year.
Seems like a lot of themes that already were themes at that time.
Yeah, they had ape cats. They had broncosauruses, dingoes. But yeah, there was a feature film in 1988, which I'd never even heard of. But yeah, anyway, and I remember watching this. But I also watched a like a documentary about it, and Mattel put a lot of money in this. They thought it was going to be the next big thing, and it was an absolute flop. But yeah, he had a little visor that came down, and he could see and see through walls or whatever. They can run really fast, and he was really strong. And yeah, so that was Brave Star.
I only asked about the cultural sensitivity because if you ever watch G.I. Joe now, there is a Native American character, and they don't do a good job with him at all.
Well, and actually, there was an Asian character, and his character name, his code name was Tunnel Rat.
All right, let's not do that.
I don't think that it would not. Who was thinking of that?
I don't know.
Come on now.
Well, my second cut, you already said, so let's roll the theme song and see if you can remember what you were talking about it a couple minutes ago. Yeah. So yeah, that was them. The only reason they end up on my cutting floor, they seem like a automatic in type, right? But again, this came out more in the late '80s, so I was starting
90s.
to go away from cartoons a little more. The cartoons I was watching then would have been like Ren and Stimpy and things like that. So a lot of different types of cartoons. So I knew what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was. I caught a few of the cartoons, but I wasn't really too much into it. Obviously, I saw the movie, which is an interesting movie. But so everything you said about it tracks, and it was an enjoyable thing. Big pop culture hit, lots of toys, things like that. But I was just a little too old for it at that time. So
no, I think that's fair. That's fair. Honorable mention. Well, mine is a cartoon called Star Blazers.
We're off to outer space. We'll leave.
Again, I don't even know what that is. Nope, that's two in a row. You found a random cartoon.
This one, and this is another one that was kind of late 70s.
Searching for a distant star, heading off to Iskandar.
Okay.
So it's based off of a Japanese anime series called Space Battleship Yamato.
Did you watch this cartoon?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to make sure.
No. But the reason I put an honorable mention is because I think it fits your definition. It's something I caught later.
No, okay, good. Yes.
I remember at the babysitters I was at, the older kids watching it.
Oh,
but I remember being way too young. I just remember being on the screen.
First of all, there was nothing way too young at your babysitter's house to watch, so she probably just was like, "Yeah, get in there."
We were watching.
See what's going on.
Sylvester Stallone.
Oh yeah,
Cobra.
So,
yeah. No. So then years later, it came out in the United States in '79. It ran for 3 seasons. But the plot basically is it takes place in 2199. Earth has been attacked by this distant planet. The radiation is off the charts. They're only going to last a year. This Queen Starsha from another planet lands on their planet, and it gives them access to this technology, this wave motion engine that will take them to her planet, so they can get this thing called Cosmo DNA.
Of course,
on her planet of Iskandar. So they transform an old World War II battleship into a spaceship. They rename it Argo. Then they head off into space, and it's kind of a Star Trek-ish take on it, and then it's their adventures through space to go get this stuff, and they're fighting this enemy group, and
sounds like something.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to read this. It says television critic Matt Zoller cites of Vulture recommended the series in 2013 as one of the 8 great television series or miniseries people most likely have not seen, before stating that this epic series about a refurbished battleship setting sail across the galaxy to save an apocalypse-ravaged Earth remains the reigning masterpiece of the 1970s era of dubbed Japanese cartoons, and his serialized storytelling was ahead of its time.
All right.
So it did have this really cool story setting. And then this one guy here said would have made their list of the top 100 greatest shows of all time
Wow.
had they not excluded foreign television from the list.
Nice.
So Star Blazers, yeah.
Star Blazers. Well, I don't know if I can follow that up because
So
my
that's
show is definitely not a top 100 anything. My honorable mention is called Danger Mouse.
He's the greatest. He's fantastic.
This was a British cartoon that came out in 1981. I did not see it.
He's
Obviously, then I was like
He's
5 years old.
amazing. He's the strongest, he's the quickest, he's the best. Danger Mouse.
It finally showed up in syndication in the mid-'80s on Nickelodeon, and that's where I finally saw it. For those that don't remember Nickelodeon, little channel where they had You Can't Do That on Television, and they would slime people. But yeah, anyway, so Nickelodeon, the cartoon was a spoof on James Bond. Basically, he's a James Bond type hero, the mouse. And I just remember enjoying it and watching it later, again on Nickelodeon. But fun fact, it was the first animated show on Nickelodeon coming on after their most popular show, You Can't Do That on Television.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
with
it was
this-
the first animated. You think about Nickelodeon now, you're like, it's all animated, a lot of it, but it was the first animated cartoon they got. So
Yeah. You were talking about You Can't Do That on Television. My son was just commenting the other day about they had some award show, Nickelodeon did an
yeah,
award
they
show.
slime people.
And one of them, he's like, yeah, and this gal somebody was presenting an award, and she got like slime dumped on her. And I was like, I was trying to explain to him that
That's what happened.
like, that's been around for a long time, like that.
Long time.
But yeah, I guess they don't know where that came from.
No,
But anyway,
they have no.
Yeah.
That's because it's your job to teach them these things.
man, I gotta
And you have
expose them to
not
the
given them
original.
the slime.
I have not.
All right. Well, slime yourself up and give us your number one.
My number one, Transformers.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to
Good one.
I had to go. To me, that is, for me, that was the classic 80s cartoon for me.
Perfect.
It was on lunch boxes. It was on
Everything.
T-shirts. It was on, they're huge movies now. And the toy line was crazy cool. And it's the ones we wanted, right?
Starscream.
Starscream
Was my favorite.
Yeah, he wanted to be the leader. He was a whiny little guy, and he wanted to.
Yeah, everybody wanted Optimus Prime, which I had. And everybody wanted Megatron, which, by the way, there were a couple versions of Megatron.
Yeah.
One he turned into a gun.
Yeah.
And then one he turned into a tape player.
Yeah.
They could play a tape, by the way.
No, and I put that down. I said,
But I wanted Starscream.
the one
got it.
I always wanted was Jetfire. I don't know if you remember. He was a white and red jet. And that was the one, man. If you had that one,
I just liked-
Megatron
yeah.
or Optimus Prime, everybody wanted Optimus Prime.
Bumblebee.
The only one I had two that I know that I owned. One was it was called a multi-changer, but I don't even remember his name. But it was called Astro Train. Yeah. He was a steam locomotive, but he was also a space shuttle. I remember having that one.
Yeah.
And I also had Jazz. Sad story though. He was in my backpack.
Broke.
Well, and one day, I don't know what I was thinking. I kicked my backpack all the way home.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I kicked that thing in the air. I kicked it all the way home.
You had a rough day with
Apparently,
cursive or something.
I got home, had to get something out of my backpack.
Yeah.
Pull it out. It's busted right at the waist.
Yeah, you're not getting
I remember
that one.
taking it to my mom. I remember her trying to console me because I was like, it was the real Transformer.
Yeah.
Because the other option was GoBots.
GoBots. I had some GoBots.
And I was like,
I
you
had
got
some
the
GoBots.
GoBot, and I was kind of like, okay, all right, I'll
It's
take
still-
the GoBot.
look,
but it wasn't. It was not.
The GoBot still
No.
turned into things, right? So,
Come on.
let's be honest. Transformers were cool when they first came out. Transformers, I had them, I loved them, got it.
Yeah.
But it started to go like they were like trying to just make money at one point because at one point they started being dinosaurs, they started being bugs,
Man.
they started being all kinds of other things.
Well, yeah, pre-production work, right? So I'm
know,
on
yeah.
Wikipedia and I'm looking pages and pages
yeah.
of all the different types and versions, and
Yeah.
I was like, what in the world? Yeah,
well, that's what they.
yeah,
I
it's
think.
crazy.
I think in the movie Big, that's what they kind of make fun of is where he's like, it's a building that turns into a robot that turns into a building.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks is like, well, what's fun about a building?
Yeah.
But that's at the point where Transformers, they were just making everything be
Yeah.
turning into something.
Yeah,
Because that was it. And by the way, don't bag on GoBots so much. GoBots were all right. I had the little gray one. It turned into a fighter plane. It was all right.
No.
You know, and it was a little more handheld,
No.
more portable. All right.
No.
I don't think you should be bagging on the Go
No, and
Bucks.
I did have a Transformer-themed birthday party one time.
Yeah,
And
that's a good one.
Yeah, so Transformers for me, that's more than meets the eye. There's the catchphrase for that one.
So I'm going to review my number one. It's not Transformers. And surprisingly, Transformers didn't make any part of my list, which is interesting, right?
Shocking.
Yeah, so I loved the toys, and I can honestly say didn't really watch the cartoon.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the cartoon I would go to as much. That all being said, my number one cartoon is, and you've already said it, He-Man.
Okay.
I'll call it that, Masters of the Universe.
Cringer became the mighty Battle Cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together,
This is, look, this legitimately for a while, for probably a 2-year window, was my favorite cartoon. It came on at 3 o'clock. Mm-hmm. I got off the bus at like 2:48, and I would literally run the 2 blocks from where the bus let me off to my house so I could get in front of that TV at 3 o'clock to watch He-Man.
See, that's
it was
something
like
kids
my
won't
event.
know.
Yeah, it
that
was.
whole idea of like, I have to get home to catch it.
I would sit on the bus, and if he was taking too long at a stop, I'd be like, the bus driver would be like, "Let's go," because and inevitably I'd miss the first 2-3 minutes, and the part I missed was the opening, which I love the opening.
Yeah.
You got him again. If you go watch it now, it seems a little cheesy, but you do the opening. He says, "I got the power. I have the power." He turns into He-Man. Before that, he's kind of a Prince Valiant looking kind of dude, and he's wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know who made these decisions, but so the cartoon, if you rewatch it, is
Not great.
complicated. I guess the best way to say it. I don't know what's going on half the time, and a lot of like Skeletor's lines are weird and don't always fit, make sense, and so there's just a lot of things happening. And the animation's really bad, actually. Now looking back on it, but there was a time. This was literally my favorite thing in the world, and I was He-Man for Halloween, and I had Castle Grayskull. I had both cats, purple and green. I had tons of those characters. I would always get like 3 of them for a birthday. I mean, it was a pretty stacked situation. But I just remember this more than any other cartoon, wanting to watch it so much for probably like 2 years, and just thinking it was the best thing I'd ever watched. And now looking back on it, it's not the best thing I've ever watched.
No.
But I'll live in that 7-8-year-old brain and go, He-Man, he's where it's at.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's a good one. It's a good one.
It is. So, well, those are our lists. Some other notable cartoons that didn't make either of our lists. Pac-Man.
Okay.
That was one. Gem and the Holograms. I don't know if you ever saw the Gem.
No, my wife will sing the theme song.
It's a good theme
song. She can sing it.
I will say I like it for the theme song. I can't bag on Gem for that at all. Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. That was a good one.
I remember.
I watched that a little bit, yeah. And then the Ghostbusters had a cartoon there for a little while, and I watched that on a couple Saturday mornings. Not enough that it made it in there.
Do you remember that there were 2 Ghostbuster cartoons?
Yeah, there were 2 versions of it. It was the real Ghostbusters and then the Ghostbusters.
That was had nothing to do with the movie.
No.
It really had the storyline had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it was confusing. They're just trying to capitalize.
There was a gorilla.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Yeah, you gotta have all that.
Yeah.
You said DuckTales.
DuckTales.
The Snorks. Snorks was not one I watched. Another one I put down that again was old but played every Saturday morning, and really they played it after all the other cartoons, and that was the Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
Looney Tunes would always be on. So it would be on there. Popeye would pop up from time to time for whatever reason. Not sure. Not a big Popeye fan, but it was there. And if you want to watch a terrible movie, go watch that 1980s movie with Robin Williams being Popeye. Look, people think that's a cult classic. I cannot agree with that. That's
I don't know.
It's rough to get through. So
I had Garfield.
Garfield's a good one.
But then I also had Heathcliff.
Heathcliff was
again,
a good one too.
you had kind of the 2 cats that looked very similar.
Richie Rich was one. Richie Rich.
Do you remember a show called The Centurions?
I don't.
Yeah, it was another.
I remember
kind of a mask type where they wore these.
That happened where something got popular and they kind of tried to make different versions of it. I remember Pound Puppies. That was a good one, and you could buy the toys as well. Care Bears.
Yeah.
Don't forget about the Care Bears.
Let me ask you this. I think this gets into kind of this Seinfeld syndrome.
No.
Simpsons. That's more of a 90s.
No. So that
it's an 80s cartoon. It came out.
That could have been a legitimate choice.
Yeah.
I just didn't really start watching The Simpsons till
Yeah.
the 90s.
Okay.
But I did, trust me, I was all about eat my shorts as much as everybody else was. I had a T-shirt with Bart Simpson on it that said, eat my shorts.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so one thing I was going to tell you is two characters, or two voice actors, Jim Cummings and Frank Welker, if you do a little research. Jim Cummings played Afterburner and Rip Snapper as Transformers, El Capitan in DuckTales. He was multiple characters in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was multiple characters in Chip and Dale. Frank Welker was, which is just 80s. We'll talk about. He was the Capuchin Monkey on Raiders of the Lost Ark. He played Cujo. He was Stripe and Mogwai and Gremlins. He was the aliens in Flight of the Navigator. He played a bunch of characters in the Transformer the movie. He was characters in G.I. Joe the movie. He was the Gopher in Caddyshack. He was Prancer in the movie Prancer, and he was a bunch of characters in DuckTales.
nice.
So I'm like, a lot of the voices we heard were
Same guys.
Were two guys. Were kind
Well,
of.
I will say that in the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 60s, I don't know, wasn't there for that, but voice actors used to do multiples and do all those cartoons. And now it's gotten to where they hire more like famous people or thanks to Robin Williams and the old Aladdin, they figured out, we can get legit stars and these will sound, and people will like it because they recognize the voice. So, well, I think if you're looking for some 80s cartoons, we gave you just about everything you could think of. That being said, we probably didn't. We probably missed something. But let's go ahead and shut off that TV as that brings us to the end of this episode of Totally 80s and 90s Recall. We hope you've enjoyed looking back at our favorite cartoons of the 1980s and talking about cereal a little bit. We do like cereal. If you like this podcast, hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. Then head on over to Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us feedback and 5 stars, which will help the show grow and definitely feed Rob's ego because we got to keep that up. Speaking of Rob, he and I love hearing from our listeners, so please leave us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or our website, which are all included in the show notes. You can also email us at 80s90srecall@gmail.com with comments or show ideas you may want to hear in the future. And we're looking for show ideas, and we've got our own, but we're always open to doing something fun and different. So
what are we doing next time?
what are we doing next time? Ooh, this is a good one. We're gonna go into the 90s, and we are gonna cover our favorite hip hop, R&B/rap songs of 1997.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Okay.
first year out of high school for you. It's a good year in that genre. Lots to choose from.
Say it one more time. Rap,
Hip hop, R&B, rap.
Okay.
They're kind of all tied
Okay.
together, but
Okay.
those
Oh, that'll be fun.
songs of 1997.
That was my jam in '97.
That was your jam.
Okay.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
we got anything else? Any more cartoons?
No more cartoon.
All right. Fancy goodbye.
No fancy goodbye.
All right, later.
Peace out.